We start tonight with the news that a council is failing vulnerable children in its care so badly the government has sent in an advisor to take over. The council in question is Croydon. An Ofsted inspection ruled its children's social care services are inadequate, concluding it doesn't understand children and doesn't look after them, leaving some at risk of significant harm. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the details.
Child protection is one of the most important responsibilities of any London borough, but in Croydon, the Labour-run council systematically failed youngsters in its care. That was the verdict of ministers today after a damning report from Ofsted inspectors who concluded there are widespread and serious failures in the services provided to children and their families in Croydon that leave some children at risk of significant harm. When children are missing or at risk of sexual exploitation, poor recognition and response to these concerns is not reducing risk to them effectively.
I apologise wholeheartedly because ultimately they are our most vulnerable cohort within the borough, and they are the people who, for me as lead member, I have a responsibility as the corporate parent to make sure receive the best service possible for them.
During Ofsted's inspection in June, 1,789 youngsters in Croydon were in need of children's services. They included 399 thought to be so at risk they were subject to a child protection plan. In the last 5 years, the council conducted serious case reviews after 5 children died. Today, the government appointed Eleanor Brazil, a veteran social services troubleshooter, to take control of children's services in the role of commissioner.
The fact the government has had to step in and appoint a commissioner with powers to direct children's services in Croydon shows how serious this is. I think the council's leadership has failed, and their leader, Councillor Tony Newman, should resign.
Tonight, Croydon Council said it accepted the findings of the Ofsted report and would make the necessary changes to deliver better services for children.
Look, a terrible catalogue of failings has been revealed. What happens now?
Well, Eleanor Brazil, the commissioner put in charge of children's services, is effectively calling the shots. The council has to do what she says. And she's well qualified. She was the person who went in to sort out Haringey Council in North London after the dreadful baby P scandal. You remember the death of Peter Connolly in 2007. He died from abuse and neglect. Her first job is to carry out a 3-month review of what went wrong at Croydon. Ofsted identified several flaws: weak management, poor decision-making, too many staff leaving, and social workers too slow, and the council too slow to respond to problems. Sometimes when children went missing, they weren't even questioned when they returned. And Eleanor Brazil will stay in place until the Secretary of State is satisfied that the improvements have been made.
All right, Simon, thank you very much. Thank you. When Prince William visited Grenfell Tower just days after the fire, he promised he would go back. Today, he made good on that promise. But instead of offering survivors a royal handshake, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and Prince Harry have helped to create a new community centre for the area, which will provide a range of mental health services for some of the youngest survivors and their families. The two brothers visited the centre this afternoon, as our correspondent Simon Harris now reports.
William and Harry, two princes on a personal mission. They know all too well the impact of traumatic bereavement on the life of a child. Today, they came to the Support for Grenfell Community Hub, not just as royal visitors, but as stakeholders. The Prince's Royal Foundation signed the lease on this former brewery to allow some of Britain's leading children's mental health charities to set up shop in the shadow of Grenfell Tower. Prince Harry joined one family from the 21st floor. This was their first counselling session. They're still living in a hotel.
The staff were very friendly, very nice to us, but it's a hotel.
Is this something that you think would be useful for you guys?
Yes. They're amazing, and it shows that they actually care as well, which is really good. Couldn't have asked for more.
Prince William met one schoolgirl who saw the fire and then had to face exams.
Did you go sit your exams as well?
Yeah, I did.
The next day?
The need for support, care and counselling in this community is still overwhelming.
What's happened here is that there's been so many people affected. There's been so many families having the same kind of experience all at once. Obviously, it's very individual. For each family is going to respond in a different way because grief is a very individual thing. But the enormity of it, I guess, is something that's unusual.
Prince William's visit today was in part to honour a pledge he made to Grenfell residents in the days immediately after the tragedy. When the Queen met survivors and families, her grandson was with her, but there wasn't time to talk to everyone. As they left, Prince William promised to return.
I'll be back. I'll come back. Come back.
Can I take a picture?
Once again today, the princes found themselves under pressure to stay longer, but there were some voices of dissent.
Where were the families of the bereaved? Those who were going to get the use of that centre? Why were they not involved?
The princes also found time to drop in on the Al-Manar Muslim Cultural Heritage Centre, one of the first community groups to respond to the disaster, offering food and shelter to Grenfell survivors. The two princes were to have been joined today by the Duchess of Cambridge, but her morning sickness has confined her to Kensington Palace. Simon Harris, ITV News.
London's Mayor Sadiq Khan today accused the leader of Kensington and Chelsea Council of lacking humility and said she should never have taken the job. Elizabeth Campbell took over the running of the council in the weeks following the Grenfell fire. But the mayor said he had no confidence in her. He was speaking to our political correspondent Simon Harris for tonight's late debate programme, and Simon is in our Westminster studio now. Simon, these are really strong words from the mayor, aren't they?
Geraint, he didn't pull his punches. In the immediate aftermath of the fire, the mayor was one of the first to demand a government takeover of Kensington and Chelsea. He wanted ministers to appoint commissioners to take charge. But that didn't happen. Instead, the leader of the council resigned and Councillor Elizabeth Campbell was chosen by the controlling Conservative group as the new leader. I asked the mayor if he had confidence in her.
No. I think what should have happened was them all being told to go, either the government sending people in to take over and putting the council in special measures, and or them using the further powers that they could have used to get another council in there.
Do you think Elizabeth Campbell should resign now?
I think she shouldn't have taken on the job. I think she should have recognised and had the humility to recognise they're all tarnished, failure or unfailure. They're all painted with the same brush. As a member of the cabinet, as a senior councillor, I've seen for myself the lack of confidence residents have with her and her administration.
Well, Councillor Campbell's response to that was, "I'm not going to play politics with the Grenfell fire. My focus is on stepping up to the job." Mr Khan also reveals what he thinks about being dropped from Labour's conference. There'll be no speech from London's mayor this year. Has he been snubbed by Jeremy Corbyn? Watch the late debate on ITV tonight at 10:45. Geraint.
We will. Thank you, Simon.